Joining me once again is Magic Mike Murray, who's getting ready to fight Zac Richard this Saturday at NEF 41 for the vacant amateur lightweight title. Mike, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you, Ben?
Not bad. Nice to talk to you again. Last time I saw you was after your very impressive victory at NEF 40 up in Orono over Jordan Crim. Another round one finish. You looked great in there, man. What's life been like for you since?
It's been good. Just been looking forward to getting another fight. I hadn't even reached Georgia yet, and I was already getting ready for this next one. I was still in the airport, and I was already getting offered another fight, so it's pretty good.
Obviously, you know, it's got to be a lot for you to juggle with your military obligations and everything you have to do there, and then trying to train for a fight. You know, you have aspirations of making it to the biggest of levels here in the sport. How difficult has it been as each fight evolves? Is it just becoming a little bit more routine for you?
It's hit or miss, really, and it's kind of funny you asked that because it's like, you know, if I can do it, literally anybody can do it. So if you're not doing it, you're making excuses is really what I'm, you know, what I see in it. But yeah, like a lot of things has come in and made it really difficult for this one. Work schedule, training schedule, and not only that, but I was almost not able to come back like this week. Like I was almost like work almost said I couldn't do it. So I was like, you know, it's really hit or miss, you know what I'm saying? But I still try to make do with what I got, and still am doing it.
How nervous were you when work was telling you that you might not be able to come back? I got to imagine that's gotta mess with you a little bit as you're preparing. I mean, this is a title fight. It's the biggest fight of your career.
Yeah, I mean, it messed with me a little bit, but it's not like it doesn't do anything mentally, really. It's just like, I mean, at that point, you can't really do anything about it, but try to argue with them and say, you know, that you need to do this. It's like I said, it's just kind of like, it's not really it doesn't mess with my mental at all. It's just a matter of getting something done. You know what I'm saying? Like just getting people to like let you do it.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. Well, glad to hear that the fight is coming to fruition, and you're going to be able to compete here on Saturday night down at the Aura. Let's talk a little bit about this camp. I know you split time at a few different places. Have you been working on anything more specific for this fight here against Zac?
Yeah. I'm working more on boxing, more Muay Thai, getting, you know, quicker and faster and more precise with my hands. I haven't really shown any of that in my previous fights, which is fine. Because, you know, all you really see is some flamboyant kicks, and then you see some jiu-jitsu, and that's fine because I do offer more. It's just we haven't really had the time to do that yet, you know.
Yeah, well, what you have shown so far in the cage has been very impressive. So once you unveil the full arsenal, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be maybe not wanting to step into the cage with you as your career progresses. We'll see what happens. But talk a little bit about, you know, I know the both of us know Nick Gully very well. That's how I met you initially, when he just wouldn't leave me alone, kept blowing me up. You got to see my boy Mike. You got to see him fight. And you train with him on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is obviously very good, but he's like a monster of a man, as everybody knows. How do you try and get working with someone that's so darn big and still progress with having a heavyweight that's really on top of you, trying to get your ground game better?
I mean, I work with a lot of heavyweights, if you would. Like a lot of them don't compete in the cage. A lot of them just do, you know, jiu-jitsu tournaments, which makes the jiu-jitsu even better, because if you're focusing on jiu-jitsu, you know, and not doing the whole aspect, you know, all of MMA, and they're focused on jiu-jitsu and they're doing all that, and their pressure and their weight is just so much far beyond yours, you know. It's good because, you know, the whole time I'm like fighting somebody that's way bigger than me, way stronger than me. And it prepares me for somebody that's my equal weight, if not a little bit, you know, like a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, you know. I do believe in this fight. You know, I'm going to say this because I've seen Zac fight at 145 a lot. I definitely think I'm the bigger fighter in this one. So I think even fighting people that are, you know, twice my size is extremely beneficial in this, because he's going to be way smaller than I am. I
That's
think.
interesting. Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that because I wanted to get your thoughts on Zac's most recent fight. He beat Eric Edward out of Young's MMA. I've trained with Eric. I know how big he is. He's a pretty thick guy. I got to imagine he's got to cut 20 pounds or more just to make 155 where he fought Zac at. So he was the bigger guy in that fight. Having said that, Zac was the more experienced fighter. He went in as a huge favorite, and a lot of people were taken by surprise that he was in trouble. I mean, Eric had a pretty deep submission there, an armbar. Unfortunately for him, Zac was able to slam him on his head and got a very impressive victory. But he was in trouble in that fight. What was your overall take from that fight? Did you think it was an impressive win for Zac, or more, you kind of got to tip your hat to Eric, someone who was coming in as a heavy underdog and really pushed him?
Yeah, that I've been researching like all of his, fights. We've been doing our homework, as you're supposed to, and you know, like as far as Zac's win, it was yeah, of course it was impressive. It was cool, and it's how you want to win, But and I also see where Eric went wrong too. I see how he didn't, wrap his arm around one of his legs and keep him from taking a lot of damage. So I think it was, yeah, I don't know. It could go both ways. I see where he went wrong, but I also do see how it was a cool, impressive win. I'm not going to take that from Zac at all. That was a cool win.
Now he started off 3-0, much like yourself. A lot of hype behind you guys, deservedly so. And then he dropped a couple of fights in a row. He lost to Tom Pagliarulo. No shame in losing to him. That guy's a monster. Also lost to Miguel Cuevas. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. So he's dropped a couple fights in a row. He also had a tough fight against Fred Lear. And Fred Lear is not the biggest of guys. He's thick, but he's short in stature. And Zac struggled with him a little bit. Are you starting to see cracks in his game or holes that you can exploit, or do you feel like maybe this is just a case where he's fought really tough fighters and he's been really testing himself as a mixed martial artist?
I do see cracks in his game, but I mean I'm sure he sees them in my game as well. I think we, if we're smart, we were both working on trying to fill those cracks, because if somebody else sees them and sees the cracks and sees the holes in our game, I'm sure at least for myself, in my experience, I've seen it before anybody else has seen it. I'll get out and I'll like watch like a phone video of the fight, and I'll be like, wow, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? Like, what's going on? And then I'll have all my coaches telling me like all this stuff that I already know and I'm already tracking on. Like, so I definitely think if he's smart, he's working on everything that I've been seeing. All the holes and the cracks, but yeah, I think he's probably doing the same thing for me, and likewise, he's watching all the different ways that I've kind of messed up, if you will, in a fight. But I've been working on that my whole fight camp, and I'm sure he has been as well.
Now, you said you've been working on your stand-up and your Muay Thai for this fight. Are you expecting a stand-up battle, or do you think that this could hit the canvas and you guys are going to have to use your wrestling and jiu-jitsu? I know he's got a wrestling background, so I'm sure that's what he wants to try and implement here. But for the fans that are going to be attending down at the Aura this Saturday night here, what kind of fight stylistically are you expecting to be in here?
Definitely expecting it to go to the ground. I know we both want to get a knockout, and that's like, I mean, that's what fans like to see. That's what, like, people that don't necessarily do martial arts like to see. And even people that do like, do martial arts like to see it as well. But, it's more explosive and it's more entertaining to see somebody just like stiffen up and go down to the canvas, lock up and be knocked out. But I think if we're speaking like honestly and how it's going to really go, I believe we're both going to try and get it to the ground eventually, I think it was the coach, Devin, was saying we both want to throw hands and we both want to strike, but neither one of us are going to like getting hit, and we're both going to try to get it to the ground eventually. If I'm guessing, honestly, that's how I see it going.
So when you envision this fight finishing, obviously it's a victory for yourself, but how do you see yourself getting done? What's your prediction for Saturday night?
Like I said, I mean, not too many. I don't want to give away all of our the whole fight camp, but I do see us trying a lot of striking. So I mean, if we can get a knockout, that's awesome. The quickest way done, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I can get it done in 2 minutes, I'm gonna do it in 2 minutes. If I can get it done in the first couple of seconds, I'm gonna do it. But I mean, submission, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm never gonna be ashamed of submitting somebody. That's my whole background is jiu-jitsu. That's my main background, at least. So I'm not ever opposed to submitting somebody. I get just as much excitement out of that than I do, hitting somebody in the head.
So obviously, Zac is all that's on your mind right now. That's what you're focused on. But moving forward for yourself, Mike, are you going to want to stay at 155, defend this amateur belt a few times, kind of maybe make a statement that you're the guy for New England Fights amateur 155ers? Or are you thinking about maybe going to a different weight class, or maybe eventually here in the next few fights jumping pro? Where's your head at?
I absolutely already think, I think it just takes a couple more fights, like you said, to become the guy, But I told Matt Peterson that in the very beginning after my first fight. I was like, you start promoting me and you're not going to go wrong. It's not like a one and done and 2, 3, I'm not just going to be done after this. I definitely feel better at 155, but, depending on if I can, build a little bit more muscle, and then try working back up to 170 and doing that. The thing at 170, I felt heavy in the wrong areas. I didn't feel light, and I feel really good at 155. As far as opponents go, I'm really, like I said, I'm focused, like you said, I'm focused on Zac. Obviously, if Nate ever wants to go at it, at this point, I'm going for the belt. He doesn't, I'm not calling anybody out after this. He can come after me if he wants, but, I mean, the way he kind of I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that. This is me and Zac's fight. After this, if he wants to go at it and he wants to, do some trash talking, we can do that. We can have a good build up to that fight as well. But, I know there's a lot of guys in this division that are going to want it. Ed Florenza, I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
The previous 155 champion, he even commented on our feed and said he wished he could defend. And I think he's cool. He'd be once he heals up and gets back at it, then I'd be down with defending it from him or to him. Devin Corson's obviously a very, very worthy opponent at 155. I know there's a lot of guys that want it, so I got a lot of options at 155, and then we'll go pro. And I think I'll go pro when I get out of the Marine Corps. At that point, I need to devote a lot more time to it.
Makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of exciting fights to talk about here moving forward. I can't wait for Saturday night, buddy. I'll be there cage side watching you guys. Always a pleasure talking to you. Before I let you go, anybody you want to thank or any sponsors you have, floor is yours.
Yeah, I got a lot of sponsors, way too many to say right now because I got them all on my shirt. But I got my dad. Always thankful for him cornering me and keeping up, training with me. Gully, obviously, and then all my coaches down here. Chris is actually coming up this time to corner and help with that. So, and then all my family and all my support, all my friends, everybody helped me with that.